Hello everyone, welcome to Studyknits. This is podcast number 10. Hi everyone, welcome back to Studyknits. My name is Allie. If you're new here, I'm a fourth year medical student and I'm living in the US. This is podcast number 10. It's the last podcast of 2024. Today is Friday, December 20th, so a few days before Christmas. I'm hoping to have this uploaded a little before or after Christmas, not really sure. But I wanted to get this done before Christmas so that I could, or at least get this recorded before Christmas, so that I could show off some of my gift knits that I've finished that I won't have after Christmas because they will be gone. They will be gifts. I have 3 finished objects to talk about, 1 whip, and then a couple of acquisitions. I follow a normal podcast structure. As always, all of the yarns and patterns and anything else that I mention will be in the description. I also usually at the beginning like to talk about things that I've learned since I last recorded a podcast. I'm a semi-new knitter. I've been knitting for about 4 years, and I'm just trying to improve my technical knowledge. I feel like my skills are pretty good, but my technical knowledge could improve. There were 2 big things that I learned since last time. One I learned a while ago, and then I forgot to talk about in my last podcast. This isn't like an actual technical thing, but did anybody else know that Petite Knit went to medical school? I had no idea. And then they wrote that article about her. Some magazine wrote an article about her and was talking about how she was in medical school. And then I reposted on my Instagram story, and people commented that apparently Petite Knit got big and she dropped out of school and now just does knitting full time. So it's not like my dream, but that's crazy. And then another thing that I learned, this is like a nifty sort of hack on Reddit that I found. I was using my ball winder. It's from Knit Picks. And I was using it to wind up some yarn, and it was superwash merino, so it was a little kind of slippery-ish. And I kept winding it, and the entire cake, midway through winding it, my dog's being a little needy. I don't know if you can see her on camera. She's been sleeping for the past hour, and now that I decided to start doing something, she wants attention. So I don't know if you can see her, but she's just going to be here getting scratches. Oh yeah, my ball winder from Knit Picks. I was winding up some superwash merino, which was kind of slippery and not super grippy. And the entire cake, I would be halfway through winding it, and it would literally fly off. Hello. It would literally fly off the ball winder. This kept happening. No matter how slowly, it just kept happening. I was getting so frustrated. I was almost in tears. And I was like, what do I do? I was like, clearly it's some kind of grip issue, but I don't know how to increase the grip on my ball winder. So I Google it. And on Reddit, they said to take one of those cardboard toilet paper holders, the inside of a roll of toilet paper, and tape it onto your ball winder. And it fits perfectly. And then I cut little notches at the top so I could put the yarn in and lined it up with where the little notches were in the ball winder and taped it down. And I have not had any issues since then. I will say with coarser yarns non-superwash merinos and mohair, sometimes they get stuck to the toilet paper, the cardboard on the middle. But yeah, crazy, incredible life hack. Never knew. Love Reddit. Anyways, also, and then what I'm wearing, this will be no surprise to anybody. I wear this all the time. This is my field day jacket by Ozetta. The perfect Christmassy attire. I'm hoping you can see a little bit of the tree in the side and it's not distracting. Love, love, love. Knitting for olive, heavy merino in Bordeaux, and soft silk mohair in claret. Gorgeous heathered look. Love wearing this during the holidays. I feel very festive. And in addition, it is super warm. So that is what I'm wearing. I have a cute red turtleneck that I usually wear with it, but I'm washing it right now. So this is the outfit that we have. All right, with that, we'll just jump right in. Like I said, 3 finished objects. First one is the dad sweater. This is a pattern by Emily Curtis. Oh, it's so pretty. I use Knitting for Olive Heavy Merino in the color dark moose to knit this. I used a 4mm needle for the body and then a 3.75mm needle for the ribbing. This comes in two sizings. There's a broad shoulder and a narrow shoulder. I knit the broad shoulder because this is a Christmas gift knit for my boyfriend's dad. Broad shoulder would be like standard men's sizing, and the narrow shoulder is more like standard women's sizing. So I knit the broad shoulder one, and this is size 4. I measured my gauge after blocking and finishing the whole thing. My finished gauge was about, 18.5 stitches over 10 centimeters. Pattern gauge is 21 stitches. So my gauge was a bit off. Oh my God, there's so much dog hair on this. This is your hair all over this. So my gauge did end up being a little bit off, which is disappointing because I gauge swatched before I started and my gauge was good to go. But this, I guess in the end, not so much. Not that big of a difference. I think it still looks like the dimensions are good. I actually tried this on when I finished it after I blocked it, and I loved it. Like, I kind of want to make one in this exact same size and yarn, but for me to have like a massively oversized sweater. Well, I guess while I'm talking about the yarn and the gauge, I did find that this combination, I feel like this yarn was probably a bit too big, a bit too bulky for the pattern. Mary, let's see. The suggested yarn is worsted. And this is technically worsted. I do feel like it was a bit big because the fabric is quite dense. I talked about this in my last podcast. It's really dense fabric, which is good, but I feel like it was a bit hard on my hands to knit. I was using bamboo needles, so I'm thinking if I make this again, which I really see myself making this again. This was a delight to knit, and I absolutely love the finished product. If I make this again, I would love to use metal knitting needles with it. I feel like that would make it a little bit more slippery. I feel like that would be easier on my hands to knit with because a lot of times I kind of felt like the yarn was fighting the needles and then we weren't all getting along together. So that's something I would definitely do in the future with this, I guess just with this yarn and needle combination. I would use metal knitting needles in the future. Another thing that is absolutely hilarious is that when I was filming my last podcast, when I was talking about this as a whip, I was going through talking about the yarn, and I was making sure that I had the right yarn color because I couldn't quite remember what it was in the last podcast. There's 2 variations of mousse colors in heavy merino in Knitting for Olive. There's dark mousse and dusty mousse. I ordered and picked out dusty mousse, which is kind of a really pretty brownish gray color, kind of like a New York Giants gray color, like a very nice warm gray. Okay, that is what I ordered. I was sent dark mousse. This is not the first time this has happened for me, Knitting for Olive, where they've sent me a similar color but the wrong color. They mixed up some shades of blue last spring. This is not the first time it's happened, okay? That is their fault. It is my fault for not noticing until I was halfway through this sweater that this was not the color that I ordered. And when I started knitting it up and caking it up, I was like, damn, I really thought this was gonna be a little bit more gray. Like I expected it to be more gray, but this is still the great color. Like I still love this color, whatever. And it was only when I was editing the podcast and going back through to double check that I said the right color that I realized they had sent me the wrong one. And I was just like, I mean, that's completely on me and just being careless. So that is hilarious. I still love this color. It's still the great color, but it is definitely not the color that I ordered or wanted. Again, completely on me for just not noticing, but it is what it is. Another thing that's really funny is I think because I bought yarn for the size smaller and then decided to size up, and I guess my gauge was off as well, I was really worried that I was going to run out of yarn. This is a Christmas present. We are leaving tomorrow. We're driving to New York to go spend the holidays with my boyfriend's family. So I really was kind of short-ish for time, about 2.5 weeks ago, I was like, I might need more yarn. I didn't want to wait, risk it, order yarn from Denmark, have to deal with it coming here. So I was like, let me just order more yarn. I think I'm going to run out of yarn. I ordered 3 more skeins. Okay, they come in and I'm like, fingers crossed it's the same dye lot. Probably not, because I ordered this yarn in the summer. They're not the same dye lot. And I was like, whatever, that's fine. I'll just do some helical knitting. So I did some helical knitting to blend the dye lots, and you can kind of, oh yeah, you can see a little bit here. Don't know if you can tell, there's a little bump right there. My gauge was a lot looser when doing the helical knitting. It blocked out pretty well, and I would say it's not that noticeable. I notice it. I don't think anybody else would notice it. The helical knitting went really well. It's my first time helical knitting. I think it looks great. I don't really think you can tell. You can see maybe a little bit of differences, but nothing too crazy. So I ordered 3 more balls of yarn. I was like, I will definitely need 1, may or may not need 2. So I was like, I'll just order 3. Whatever, it can't hurt. I don't want to mess around with this and have an issue. Hi, I did such a bad job explaining what was going on, so I'm just going to record a quick voiceover. But all I was trying to say is that I bought 3 extra balls of yarn to finish this project because I thought I was going to run out. And when I finished, I had 3.5 balls left over. So I didn't even need to buy any more yarn. I had enough yarn in my stash that I'd already bought to finish the project. So I didn't even need to alternate skeins or do any of that. So that was funny. So now I have just 3 extra balls of it sitting around. Not like a bad problem to have, but it's just funny that I went through all of that stress. All in all, I used 11.5 skeins. It's 575 grams of yarn, and I originally bought 12. So I have like 3.5 skeins left that are not the same dye lot. So I have some ideas of with what I'm going to do with it. I think that's pretty much all I have to say about this. I absolutely loved this. I bought some heavy merino for my boyfriend a while ago to make him a cardigan with it, actually to make him a field day jacket. And then he really liked the way this looked. I was like, well, I could make you one instead of using that yarn to make the cardigan. So that's up to him, but I might be making him one of these at some point because he really liked it. I think he's a little jealous. So I definitely would make more of these. I personally would love to have one. I know my boyfriend would love to have one. I really, really like this pattern. I thought it was well written. I talked last podcast about a little bit of like, not necessarily confusion, but I just feel like it was a long-winded, inefficient way to write out the increases. But overall, the pattern was like really thorough, good directions, good sizing instructions. I love that there's 2 different shapings for this. So I have access to the broad shoulder and the narrow shoulder one just with the same purchase. So I love that. Yeah, absolutely love this. So happy with this. And I cannot wait to give this away. I hope he likes it. Next. This will be a quick one. This is my Aran Gallant sweater by Kadri, knit with Surella yarn, classic bulky in the color Willow from their Taylor Swift Eras Tour collection. I did a project vlog for this and documented all my Instagram stories because I knit this whole thing in one day. It was kind of like a challenge to myself. I had a free day with really nothing to do, and I was like, I think I can knit this whole thing in one day. Might as well. Why not? So I did do it. I did it in a 24-hour period, not in a calendar day, but that's okay. So I won't talk too much about it. I'll just do like a big overview. I used a 6.5 millimeter needle. 6.5 millimeter needle for this. It was thick. My finished gauge at the end of washing and blocking was 13.5 stitches in 10 centimeters. Suggested was 13. So spot on. I did gauge swatch for this. So feels good. Feels good that it was spot on. I love the fit of this. I have not made a raglan for myself in quite some time, but I really, really, really like the way that this fits. Since this was hand-dyed yarn, I alternated skeins with helical knitting for about the last quarter last third. I would sort of blend them together. And you can definitely see that there's differences. I mean, this is a hand-dyed yarn, so even on the sleeve, that pretty much from like here down is all the same ball of yarn. There's some color differences, which I love. Otherwise, I wouldn't have bought the hand-dyed yarn to make this. This yarn it's 100% superwash merino, which is really soft. I don't think I've knit with like a sweater with superwash to my knowledge since at least I haven't knit one with superwash since I've known what superwash is, if that makes sense. I love the I-cord. I love the I-cord edging here. This is just super cute. Oh, I used about 562 grams for this. I bought 600 grams from Sorella Yarn, which was, I knew more than what I needed. But since it was like a pre-order, I didn't want to risk running out of yarn. That would be tragic. Oh yeah, I'll just briefly go through some of the modifications that I made in case you don't want to watch my whole like hour-long vlog about this. My like slow descent into madness as I made this. I added some short rows to the neck. My first time DIYing short rows, so I was a little nervous, but they turned out so well. I made the mohair gallant sweater a while ago when I first started knitting, and I don't love it for pretty much one reason. I used Drops Kid Silk, held double, and I don't like Drops Kid Silk. It was my first time using it way back in the day. It's really itchy, and there's something, the color isn't the absolute best color on me, so I don't really wear it. Something that really bothered me about that sweater, which has the same construction as this one, just smaller gauge, is that there's a little bit of bunching at the neck because there's no short rows worked. So I knew coming in I was going to work some short rows. So I ended up doing, and then I tried to Google, actually someone could maybe let me know how you quantify short rows, because I did a total of 4 turns, 2 on each side, okay? So it was like this way, and then this way, and then this way, and then that was it. Is that 2 short rows or is that 4 short rows? Do you count short rows in pairs? Or is each row that you work a single short row? Because I kept I wanted to be clear about what I did. It doesn't matter. So I'm going to say I worked 2 sets of short rows. I feel like that avoids confusion. I placed the turns in places that I thought would be good places to turn and then as inconspicuous as possible. So there's one right here. I don't know if you can see. There's one right here above where the shoulder is. And then there's one right here just before the raglan, or just after the raglan starts. So they sit kind of here and here. There is not that much bunching because of the short rows, which I am so happy about, because I did not like it on my mohair gallant, and it's more or less resolved in this one. There's a little bit of bunching, but a lot less than what it would have been before. The yarn was great to work with, super soft, love the yarn. The only thing that bugs me is that there are some little like fuzzies like here. I don't know if you can see, and then on the back there's a couple of fuzzies here and then here, and I mean I think those are it's just from the yarn. Slight unraveling. Oh, that actually just might be a woven in end that's just coming undone. So let me just tuck that. But yeah, that is a little bothersome. I just think it makes it look a little unfinished. Okay, well that one just tucked nicely in. So I think I'm just being a baby about it, and I can just go back in and tuck them in. But I don't love that. I think it gives it a little bit more of like an unfinished look. Not my favorite. But yeah, overall great. I don't want to spend too much time on this because, like I said, there is a whole project vlog up about this. But an absolute delight to knit. Cannot wait to get more wear out of this, and I'm so happy. And then my last finished object, big chunky finished object. Oh boy, it's a shawl. It's a massive shawl. Oh my gosh, I didn't trim the ends. Okay, I'm gonna trim the ends off while I talk about this. This is what I've been calling my autumn tails blanket shawl, or the winter / autumn tails blanket shawl. These are both patterns by Ozetta. The Winter Tales blanket shawl is an absolutely massive trapezoidal shaped shawl that is a blanket shawl. It is massive. That thing is huge. I mean, it's this thing is huge. The Autumn Tales shawl is a bit more Sophie shawl-esque. It's triangular and it has this gorgeous edging, like this crochet braid that you go in and do at the end. So I basically just worked the Winter Tales blanket shawl and then added the crochet braid from the Autumn Tales shawl at the end. So that's why I'm calling it my Autumn Tales blanket shawl. This was incredible. Let's see. This is also a Christmas present. This is for my boyfriend's mother for Christmas. This thing is warm. I used for the entire, like, I guess we'll call it the body, not the braid. I used a Istex Plotalope, which is the unspun yarn that comes in plates. I used the color, what is it? Number 5, which is Black Heather. And then I held that with one strand of Sadness Garn Tin Silk Mohair, also in black. What's the color? 1099. It's called Svart. And then for the braid, you hold multiple strands together. You're supposed to hold the unspun and just do the braid with the unspun, but I also held mohair in there with it as well to keep the consistency. I did 2 strands of mohair that I added to the braid, mostly because I had a little bit of the tin silk mohair left, so I used the rest of that tin silk mohair. And I had some Drops Kid Silk in black that was just sitting around, so I decided to use that. So I used a good chunk of that as well, just to deplete my stash, and why not? I used a 4.5mm needle for the shawl, and then I used a 6.5mm crochet hook for the braid. That's size K. It was massive. I used 323 grams of the Istex Plotalope. For the Winter Tales blanket shawl, only 300 grams or 3 plates are called for. I bought 4 because I knew I wanted to do the braid, and I didn't want to make this any smaller than what it needed to be. Like, I didn't want to worry about yarn chicken and all of that. I wanted to have more than enough. Definitely, if I was doing it without the braid, could easily have gotten away with 3 plates. But with the braid, it just felt better having the extra plate lying around. And I have a little bit of it left that I can do something with. I'm not quite sure. It was recommended to me by the great people of YouTube to use a strand of mohair to soften up the unspun, because the unspun is quite sheepy. There were little bits of hay in it, which I was like, I love this. This is so cute. So I can't really speak to what it feels like without the strand of mohair because I've never worked with it without the mohair, but this isn't so bad. I don't know that I personally would wear like a sweater out of this, but a shawl where it's really not going to be directly on your skin, especially a shawl that's for draping and not for like wrapping around your neck. See how it felt? And I was sitting in the apartment just with it draped around my shoulders, and I felt so warm. I started sweating. So this is some serious wool. Like, this will keep you warm. And then I love how big it is, and how it's a literal blanket shawl. I love this. I loved making this. I want one too now. So at some point I'll probably make myself one of these, but not for a very long time. While we're talking about the yarn, I do think that one of the 2 yarns, either the unspun or the tin silk, stained my needles a little bit. Again, I was using bamboo needles, and they were definitely, I watched it, they slowly got a little bit darker as I went on knitting. It's not necessarily a complaint, like it is what it is. This has happened before. I've had needles get stained before. This wasn't really as bad as it could have been, but is just like something that I wanted to note. You know, it is what it is. What else? I learned how to spit splice for this because with the unspun, I have a little bit of it left here that I can show you in case you haven't worked with unspun. This is what it looks like. It is unspun. It's I think it's a good metaphor for life. It sticks to itself quite easily, and is much stronger when it's knitted and not by itself. So, I think that's pretty cool. You have to gently pull it from the plate or else you will rip it. It rips apart like quite easily. You just pull it apart. So a lot of times I would be knitting and then I would be knitting and then realize that it had just ripped a little bit back, and then I had to get it together. But to join it, because you can't tie it and pull on it, it'll rip. You have to spit splice it, which I've never done before. I'm not going to do it on camera because that would be weird. But you literally just like wet two ends, put it together, and then you friction them together, and it joins. Why I'm bringing this up is it's funny because I've been doing residency interviews. I've been on Zoom quite a bit, like doing Zoom social events and interviews and information sessions and things like that. And so of course I'm knitting on Zoom and I'm trying to finish this, but I don't want to spit splice on camera on Zoom in front of these people that I don't know that I'm trying to impress. So a couple of times I would get everything set up and then I would turn my camera off really fast and then like spit splice, and then I would turn my camera back on. Or I would very subtly do it. I would pretend like I'm scratching my nose, and then I would just like spit into my hands and then spit splice. This is probably TMI, but I just thought it was so funny because it kept happening. Honestly, it didn't really annoy me having to spit splice. It just like, it is what it is. It's part of the unspun. I wasn't being careless when pulling the yarn off of the plate, but I wasn't always 100% paying attention to where the plate was, and it wasn't getting all turned around. You know what I mean? So I wasn't really paying that much attention to it. Another thing that I wanted to mention about the crochet braid is that this side is good. You can see the shape is staying the same as the triangle. This side there's a little bit of like pulling. You can see the braid is a little bit smaller. Also, I don't even think I showed it to you. The braid's a little bit tighter than the gauge of the shawl. So you can see it's kind of, puckering is not the right word, but it's pulling a little bit at the ends. So I tried to be mindful of making my gauge as loose as possible. But it happens. It is what it is. This was fun to knit. And I will say, actually, this is the first time that I've ever set like a daily knitting goal for myself, if that makes sense. I've followed people and heard people talk about it on podcasts, YouTube, like everything, especially if they're working on a big, daunting project with a deadline, like a dress, a big sweater, a blanket, a shawl, something. They'll be like, well, I need to knit 10 rows a day to finish it by this day, or I want to knit 10 rows a day. I've never done that with any project before. I always thought that it turned your craft into like a chore that you had to do, basically being like, oh, I gotta do my 10 rounds, or else it's not gonna get finished, and then you do it and then that's it. With this, once I finished the increases and just began working on, let's see, how big is the middle section? The middle section is like this. It is big, right? It is massive, the middle section. That's just knitting back and forth, garter stitch, no increases, no decreases. I was getting a little like, not overwhelmed, but it was a bit like purgatory, where I was just kind of knitting, and it wasn't the most enjoyable thing because it was just so daunting how much garter stitch I was going to have to do. So I did some math. I pulled out I had a crazy night. My undergrad degree is in math, and I pulled out some of my like undergrad math and figured out, how many stitches were in the first plate of yarn that I did, and then how many stitches were going to be in the middle section and the remaining section, and then figured out how many rows that was going to be, divided it, all of that, and realized I needed to do 20 rows a day if I was going to finish it by, I think last weekend was my deadline, giving myself a little bit of buffer time so that I could block it and skip a day, do things, all that. So anyways, I was kind of dreading that. But then once I started doing it, I would sit down, do my 20 rows, and I was like, this is actually nice. It turns what is a very daunting project with just a lot of kind of boring knitting. Not boring. Boring in the sense that it's mundane and monotonous. So it turned all of this like monotonous knitting that was daunting into just little bite-sized chunks that I could do throughout the day. And I wouldn't get discouraged. Like, oh, I should be knitting more on this. You know, it's really easy and I need to finish it. I wouldn't get discouraged, and I wasn't worried that I wouldn't be able to finish it. That was the other thing, is that I knew I would do my 20 rows and I'd be like, all right, that's good for today. Sometimes I would knit on it more if I was enjoying it, and sometimes I would stop after the 20 rows. And it made it really, really enjoyable. So yeah, all those times of thinking it was taking the fun out of the craft, it kind of put the fun back into this project for me. So in that sense, I really enjoyed it, and it made it a lot more enjoyable. And I finished it, you know, on time. I finished it, I think, on Monday, and then washed and blocked it. And since it's just one layer of fabric, it took like not even that long to dry. So now it is all ready to go, and I'm so happy with this. Yeah, so happy. Would love to make one for myself. I would use the unspun yarn again for mine. And then I would probably use Knitting for Olive soft silk mohair, because I don't ever see a reason to use a different mohair than that. It is perfect. So yeah, would love to make this for myself at some point, and I'm super happy with this. Cannot wait to give it away. Moving on. I technically have 2 works in progress. I have my penny gloves that I talked about last time. However, I have not done any work on them since then, so I'm not going to show them. I'm not going to, mostly because I have no idea where they are. They're probably in a bag somewhere. This is my big whip. Okay, it's almost done. I really wanted to finish it by yesterday, but I didn't, and you know, it's fine. It is what it is. But can't really see, but this is my chestnut sweater by Petite Knit. This is another gift knit. It's from my mom. It is not a surprise. She and I picked out this pattern together. This is for her. We are going to Paris after Christmas, just the 2 of us, and so I wanted to make us matching turtlenecks for Paris. And she said she wanted a black one, and we sort of picked out like the pattern together. I'm not coming back here and seeing my mom before we leave for Paris. So I really wanted to give it to her before I left, but it is what it is. I'll just have to take it with me. I am using, this is Drops Flora in black. Yes, color number 6, black. And then this is Knitting for Olive soft silk mohair in licorice, which is just their black color. So as you can see, I have both sleeves done. The neck, I have, I think, maybe like 8 more centimeters to knit on the neck. And then I have a little bit left of the body to do, and then work the split hem, which is what I need to text her about, because I'm pretty sure she wants the split hem, but I want to make sure. This is the size medium that I'm making for her. You're probably asking, Allie, where's yours? Haven't started it yet. We'll get to that in future plans. This has been great to knit with. What is the suggested yarn for this? The suggested yarn, as with Petite Knit, there's always a lot of suggestions. You can use Peer Gynt held single, or Hellholtz Old Spinderi, I don't know what that is, with mohair. So yeah, I'm using this Drops Flora. It's quite nice. I can't obviously speak to the wear, but it's been absolutely delightful to knit. So I use 4mm needles for the body, which is suggested, 3.5mm for the cuffs on the arms. The neck, I'm using 3mm. So the neck is a bit tighter, but this is great. This is very, very little shaping. Like, there's no arm shaping, quite drop shoulder. What I love is you can see there's a ton of ribbing for the sleeve. Like this, the sleeve was so quick to knit because look at this. There's like not much stockinette. There's a lot of rib. So I absolutely love the way this looks. It's been really fun to knit. So excited to cast this off and immediately start mine. But yeah, almost done with this. I gauge watched a while ago. My gauge was on. This is looking pretty good. This is looking like we usually wear like the same size clothes. So this is looking like it'll fit her and me because I'm going to make myself the same size. Only modification that I did was I ended up picking up more stitches for the sleeves to match the stitch count. I think, I can't remember if it was like pick up 2 out of 3 stitches or 3 out of 4 stitches, but I ended up doing 4 out of every 5 stitches so I could get the right stitch count for the sleeves, which kind of made me think that my gauge was a bit off, at least my row gauge, because I picked up, I'd adjust my number of stitches that I picked up, or the ratio of picking up stitches. I was worried that my row gauge was off, and that concerned me for the sleeves. But then I did the number of decreases that she suggested, and it was supposed to measure, I can't even remember how many centimeters, but I measured after I finished the decreases and it was the perfect length. So maybe my row gauge isn't a problem. I have a couple more centimeters to knit on the body and then I'll do the hem. So I'm hoping I can finish this in the next couple of days so that I can start mine. I don't really think there's anything else to say about it. Yeah, that's it for whips. Yeah, we're gonna call it a day on that. That's it. And then I have a couple of acquisitions. I feel like usually I don't have like trinket acquisitions, but today I do, which is very exciting. I'll start with the most exciting one, which is this gorgeous. Wait, I'll go into backstory. You may or may not remember my friends and I do my college girlfriends and I do a DIY Secret Santa. This is the second year that we've done it. I made my friend an Oslo sweater. It was gorgeous. And then I received my DIY Secret Santa gift, which is my friend took a pottery class and made this black cat yarn bowl for me. And look, it even has a little tail. Isn't it so cute? I'm obsessed. I'm not gonna lie, I'm a little scared to use it because I don't want it to I don't want to yank on it and then it falls off and breaks. So it's been sitting on this it's been sitting on one of our bookshelves on display and not being used, but I'm obsessed. It's so cute. Brought me to tears because I just love I love gift giving. I love giving people gifts that I've put a lot of thought into, and I love receiving gifts that people put a lot of thought into. And so it was just such a thoughtful gift, and so thoughtful of her to make me a yarn bowl with her hands and make it a cat because I love cats. So anyways, so cute, and I love that it's on display. It's just sitting on my little TV tray right now, and it's making me nervous. I'm worried I'm gonna bump it. But yeah, so exciting. And then less exciting, but other than a lot of things. But my last podcast, right? I've been, as you all know, it's not a secret at all. I struggle with making socks. And I asked in my last podcast if anybody, I don't know what got on my hands, if anybody had any recommendations for sock patterns, anything that could help me make socks. A couple of people recommended this book, and one person DM'd me on Instagram to tell me about this book. And I was like, they clearly mean business. Very effective. So thank you to the person that DM'd me on Instagram, because I was like, this person really wants to get across that this is a good book. And I've heard Amy from Knits talk about this book before, but this is the Custom Socks Knit to Fit Your Feet by Kate Atherley. She is a mathematician, and it's funny that we already talked about math. I've been sort of slowly flipping through it. There's introduction, just general advice, and then there's a standard toe up sock, a standard cuff down sock, and then 15 other patterns with various cables and color work. Thank you for all the people that gave me advice about this. I, in the new year, will cast on a new pair of socks. I have yarn, and I'm gonna make myself some socks. And then my last acquisition, first off, I bought this set. I needed some new barber cords because I have like a set from Petite Knit. The ends are kind of stretching out. I don't know if they're not high quality or if they're just old because I've had them for a couple of years. I've been needing some new barber cords for that reason. And then I gave away 2 of my barber cords that I have, and I've been running low. So I need some new ones. So I bought these from Etsy. This is from the shop it's literally called Knitting Cords, and I'll link it down below. But it comes in this cute little tin, and then I got 2 barber cords. They're the long ones, I think. They're like 32 inches, I want to say. Not sure. But you get to pick the color. So I picked this pretty orange and pretty pink color because it's fun. And then it also comes with these needle stoppers. I thought they were skulls at first and I got excited, but they're needle stoppers. And you squish them in like this, and then you put your needles in there. And wait, guys, this is actually kind of hard. Oh, yeah. That's nice. And then they just kind of sit like that. It's pretty sturdy, I have to say. Big fan. So I have these. And then I saw somebody on YouTube doing either a podcast or a project vlog, and they had this little egg stitch marker. And I thought it was so cute. And I was like, I want one. So I bought one. This one is from Etsy. It's from Sunny Knits Crafts. Again, I will link it. I half bought them for myself, but then also my boyfriend's cousin is a knitter, and she gave me a really nice skein of hand-dyed yarn 2 years ago at Christmas. So I wanted to get her some knitting related things. So I also bought her this and this. So we both are getting the same little Christmas trinkets. I bought these for myself, and then I also bought her some as well, because I feel like you can never have enough barber cords or stitch markers. And then just like briefly about future plans, things that I'm going to cast on. Next, I'm going to start my own chestnut sweater by Petite Knit. I'm also going to use Drops Flora in black, and then I'm going to use Knitting for Olive Soft Silk Mohair Midnight. That's the one for me. It's a really, really dark gray, so it'll be a little more heathered looking and not quite like an all black turtleneck. So I'm gonna make that. That's my next thing I'm gonna cast on. Honestly, I don't even know why I was talking about this, because I don't know what I'm gonna cast on after. And just more so whatever I'm feeling. And I think I will make just like a winter knitting plans video to sort of organize my thoughts post finishing all of my gift knits, because I've been pretty single-minded on like gift knits and timelines, getting my Christmas knits done and then getting my knits for Paris done, because the chestnut sweaters are for Paris. I'll make a winter knitting plans video at some point talking about that and just reorganizing my thoughts. So that is going to be it for the knitting right now. Usually I talk a little bit more about like non-knitting interests. I'll keep it brief today. I don't want to go on too long, mostly because I have to start packing and I have to finish my laundry. So I don't want to go on and on. But if you were just here for the knitting, you can leave it. You don't have to listen to me talk about other things if you're not interested. I appreciate you staying this far, watching all of this. So yeah, thank you for being here. And then, some pretty big F1 news. Checo's gone. Surprise. I'm not surprised. Liam Lawson is taking his seat, which I know that by we all, I mean like everybody that doesn't live in New Zealand is like, that should have been Yuki's seat. I think we're all on that same page, and I was pretty upset about it. But then I was on TikTok and everybody was saying that Liam is part of the Red Bull program and Yuki has all of his ties to Honda. So everyone is speculating that once Red Bull and Honda part ways at the end of the 2025 season, that Yuki will also part ways. I don't know where Honda's going. I think Honda might be going to Aston Martin. People are speculating that Yuki will also go to Aston Martin, and that was their reason for not promoting him to the Red Bull seat. I mean, I still don't like it. I still feel like it should have been his seat. It makes sense, but it's political, and I hate that it's political. I don't think I actually recorded it. I think I posted a video. I think I posted my podcast maybe after the season was over, but I didn't record it before the season was over. great season overall, great. Excited for Drive to Survive, excited for the next season, and we'll see what shakes down at Red Bull. I talked about this in my like chaotic knitting vlog about the Aran Gallant sweater. My boyfriend and I watched Love Island USA, like the one from the summer. We watched it like 6 months later because we didn't want to watch it long distance. We watched it together. Yeah, it was great. It was really, really worth the hype. I really wish I would have gotten in on it early and not 6 months late. Like, it would have been really nice to start with Love Island US instead of Love Island UK. But yeah, really, really glad we watched it. Great season. Loved it, no notes. I also recently watched Love is Blind season, I want to say 6 or 7. I'm honestly not sure. The one from DC. It was all right. My friend and I that I was staying with in upstate New York, we watched it together. And we did the thing where you cover the TV. We covered it with a blanket while they were in the pods, so we couldn't see what they looked like. And then we did a reveal at the same time that they did the reveal. Guys, it was incredible. It was so much fun. We were a little getting people still confused while they were in Mexico, getting people's like trauma dumps confused. So it took us a while to really straighten out like actually who was who and match the face to the story. But yeah, it was really, really fun. Would recommend that. We'll do that next time. I do feel like Love is Blind is slowly falling off because it's people that are there for like fame and Instagram followers and to promote their own careers or whatever, which like you can't fault them for that. It is what it is. And I feel like since they've stopped forcing them to actually go through with the weddings, I feel like it has, like improved the participants, their mental health, but like at the expense of my viewing experience. Like it does just kind of suck when you only get like 1 or 2 weddings and you know that they're probably going to say yes, because it's really messed up if they go and they don't say yes. But still, like, dramatic season, crazy things happen, but I just feel like it's not really, we're never going to get season 1 again, and I have to accept that at some point. I don't really have any new book news. I'm not reading any new books right now. I'm still reading the same books and nothing much else to say about it. So I think I'm going to call it a day for now. As always, if you made it through the entire thing, thank you so much for watching. I really appreciate it. I hope that you're done with your gift knits. I really hope that for you. If you are gift knitting, if you're not gift knitting, I hope you're done with whatever you want to wear during the holidays. And I hope that nobody has any more knits on a timeline for quite some time now. So with that, I'm going to say goodbye, and I will see you with a new podcast in the new year. Thank you for watching. Bye.